Hello students, welcome to your channel Sabish English Classes. I hope you all are good there. And the poem that I have taken up today is the seventh poem from this book Treasure Trove, which is from ICSE board for the students of ninth as well as 10th standard. So this is the seventh poem, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and it has been written by Maya Angelou. So, Maya Angelou was an African American poet and she was also a great feminist. So, being an African American, she was black in her complexion, and for that reason, she had to undergo a lot of torture, tormentation, captivity, and slavery, which she has tried to portray through a number of poems that she has written. She was born in Africa and she was dark in her complexion, and later on, she had shifted to America. And there in America, there were two types of people: African American who were black in their complexion, and white Americans. So the white Americans over there were always humiliating, captivating, enslaving, and torturing the black people. This is something we call racism. So we can say that racism was prevalent across the world at that point of time. When this poem was written by Maya Angelou in 1969, and this poem is presenting her own life's story up to the age of 17. So we can call this poem her autobiographical representation. And Maya Angelou has written a number of other poems as well that are presenting her heart's desire for freedom. That means most of the poems that she has written are expressing the same theme, that is the significance of freedom in the life of a creature that exists on the earth. Just because she wanted to convey the message that this gift of freedom, which has been bestowed upon which has been bestowed by God upon all the creatures, uh, nobody has got the right to snatch or take away from their fellow beings. So, this is a birthright. Freedom is a birthright of every creature on the earth because it has been bestowed upon them by God. And no fellow being, no other creature, no human being, whether white in complexion or whatever, they have no right to take away the freedom of the black people. But it was prevalent in the name of racism at that point of time when this poem was written by Maya Angelou, and she herself had become a victim of that racism, and she had confronted a lot of tortures, insult, and humiliation herself. So she could very easily and very beautifully tell you about that feeling. So, which she has also manifested in this poem. So, here when we see this poem, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, this poem is that particular poem which had fetched her international praises and international recognition because this poem had beautifully conveyed the message of the heart's desire of a black person for freedom. And we will see in this poem. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings is the title of the poem, and this poem is full of various figures of speech. It is full of a lot of literary terms and literary devices, which is the significance of this poem because these literary terms and the literary devices that the poem contains make this poem even more beautiful and more meaningful for us to understand. The words have got a deeper meaning with the help of these literary terms and devices. So we see in the title of the poem itself, first of all, I know why the caged bird sings, and here there is a metaphor being used in this term caged bird. Actually, caged bird here is referring to all those black people or African Americans in America at that point of time who were being enslaved and tortured and tormented by the hands of the white Americans. So caged bird, why caged bird? Just because those black people were being caged, were being captivated, were being enslaved, and they were being kept in a confined place like a bird in a cage. And that's why here the caged bird is metaphorically standing for those black people or African Americans in America. And then we will see, on the contrary to this, the free bird's life. The life of a free bird has been portrayed in this manner that the free bird can leap anywhere, can jump anywhere, can claim the sky, and can fly as high as it wants. So the life of a free bird is metaphorically is standing for the lives of those white Americans who could lead their lives up to their will and up to their discretion. So we will see here that metaphorically the caged bird is standing for the black people, and the life of a free bird is representing the life of those white Americans who were free and who could follow their own heart's will. Then we will see that there is juxtaposition used in this poem. Now, what is juxtaposition? Juxtaposition is again a literary term, which means when we keep two contrary things together simultaneously or side by side so as to compare them and distinguish them properly and clearly. For example, here in this poem, we will see that the poet has given the life of a free bird and the life of a caged bird simultaneously in the two stanzas so that we can clearly distinguish between the two kinds of lives of the two kinds of birds. So, this is called juxtaposition. To compare the two contrary things by keeping them side by side so that their contrast is absolutely clear. So, let us start the poem now. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. So, in the first stanza, the poetess is talking about the life of a free bird and telling you how a free bird leaps on the back of the wind. That means it enjoys its freedom by enjoying the wind, and it simply flows in the direction. It simply flies in the direction of the wind and enjoys that wind and enjoys its freedom. And floats downstream means it goes up and up and up till its heart wants, and then once it gets tired and exhausted and it has consumed all its energy, then the free bird decides to come down, floats downstream. Downstream actually means to come down, so that a free bird can claim the sky for as long as its heart wants. So it claims the sky, it goes as high as it wants, it enjoys its freedom, it enjoys that flight, it enjoys that wind. And after it has consumed all its energy for the day, then it decides to come down. For that it is written here, and floats downstream till the current ends. Means it decides to come down once its entire energy has been consumed by it. And dips his wing means when it comes down, by that time it is evening or the end of a day. And that's why it dips his wing in the orange sun rays. That means by the time it decides to come down, the sky, it's an evening time and the sun rays get orange by that time. And the bird, when comes down, it knows very well that again tomorrow, with a fresh energy, it will be able to claim the sky, to have the sky in its own name. So, this is the life of a free bird, that it is enjoying its freedom to the fullest. So, the figures of speech that we see in this particular stanza are as follows. So, personification is there, as we can see that for the bird it has been written that he dips his wings. That means he is actually representing those free people, or the white Americans, or the white people across the world who had the freedom and who could follow their heart's desire. However, on the contrary to their lives, the black people across the world, not only in America but across the world, they were not allowed to follow their heart's desire, and they were forced and compelled to live according to the demands and the commands of the white people. So this is how the first stanza is telling you about the life of a free bird, and then contrary to this, in the next stanza, following stanza, we will study about the life of a caged bird, and this is how we can see that simultaneously we are reading about the two kinds of lives of the two kinds of birds, and this is how we can call this thing a juxtaposition. And it will help us understand the differences between the two kinds of lives in a clear way. So we see in the second stanza, but a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. So here it is referring to the life of a caged bird, and caged bird is not only referring to other black people or black Americans, but it is also including particularly the life of Maya Angelou, who herself had been victimized by racism and who herself had confronted a lot of humiliation and tortures in her life as a black person. And being a poet, being somebody who could think deeply and who could pen down her thoughts in the form of a poem, she has said here that the caged bird, when is tied and is confined and is clipped, then it has no other way to vent out his emotions. Then the caged bird chooses to sing song, and singing song here is actually saying or talking about the poems that Maya Angelou used to write. So a caged bird sings, that means the black people who had no other way to vent out their emotions and desire for freedom, they had this choice. They had this opportunity that they could start singing in the form of poems for their demands of freedom. So let us understand this. So in the second stanza, we see, but a bird that stalks means moves quietly. So we see that the bird which is in a cage, it has no option to go out of the cage, but it can simply move inside that cage, or it can simply move within the confinement of that cage, and it has no alternative to go outside the cage. So it has hardly seen the world outside, and it is simply inside that narrow cage. Narrow is very small. So we see here in the third line of the second stanza that there is a figure of speech used which is called alliteration, because we can see the two words coming together in the same line, and they have got the first letter same, as well as they are consonant sound pronouncing letters, that is seldom, S and CS. So we have got seldom, which is starting with S, and C, which is starting with S. So SS is common in both the words. S is common in the beginning of the word, and also S is a consonant pronouncing or a consonant sound letter. For that reason, it is called alliteration. I have already told you in other lecture that alliteration is a figure of speech when we find two neighboring words in a single line, in one line, two neighboring words or more than two words that have got the first letter same, and that same first letter must be a consonant sound letter. This is a condition, and then that is called alliteration. So here we can see alliteration through his bars of rage. That means the bird which is in the cage, it has hardly ever got the opportunity to go out of the cage and to witness the beautiful world outside. His wings are clipped. Just because his wings are clipped and his feet are tied, that means it is in the confinement, captivity. It is being humiliated, tortured, and it has no freedom to witness the beautiful world. And it is simply at the commandments of his master who has enslaved her. Right? So here we see who has enslaved whom. Black people were enslaved by the white people. So white people were the masters and the black people were the slaves. So here the black people are being represented by these caged birds who were in the confinement of a small cage and whose wings were also clipped and feet were also tied. Therefore, they couldn't move properly, they couldn't get out of that cage, and they couldn't express their feelings. They had no option to show their emotions, and that's why when they were in such a confinement, harsh and tight confinement, that they couldn't do anything, then they had one option still left with them, and that was that those caged birds could use their throat to sing. That means the black people who were captivated, confined, and were not allowed to follow their heart's desire, they could still express their desire for freedom. And this is what is being represented by this line. So, so he opens his throat to sing. It is actually referring to the poems, the option of writing poems that was available to Maya Angelou and that she chose to do. That she started writing poems and she started writing literary pieces so as to express her heart's desire. So it's okay if they were not allowed to follow their heart's desire, but at least they could express their heart's desire for freedom. This is what Maya Angelou had done. So this was the second stanza. Now let's come on to the third stanza. The caged bird sings with fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. So, in the third stanza, we see that the poetess has continued to talk about the life of the caged bird, and she is saying that the caged bird sings, and when it sings with fearful trill. Trill refers to a vibration or a sensation. That means the songs that are sung by the caged birds, the songs have got some fearful trill. That means it has got some sensual vibration, which can cause goosebumps in the listeners. So, just because those songs are so overwhelming and they are full of emotions, vehement emotions, although the songs that are sung by the caged birds, these songs have got the content which has never been witnessed by the caged bird, just because the caged bird never got the opportunity to get out of the cage and witness the beautiful world, but it is singing of the things that are a part of the world. That means the caged bird is singing about those things, those terrestrial things that the caged bird itself has never seen or witnessed. But it is expressing her desire. It is trying to show how much it wants, how intensely it wants to see the beautiful world, but it has no freedom to do that. But longed for still means, although the caged bird has no freedom, it has no liberty to do so, yet its heart asks for that, longs for that, wants that, and his tune is heard on the distant hill. That means the song is so vehement that its tune is heard to a very distant hill as well. That means the tune is far reaching, and it's far reaching only because of its vehemence, because of the intensity of the emotions that the song contains. Just because the emotions that are being expressed by the caged bird is the emotion for freedom, is a desire for freedom, and desire for freedom is always very, very strong. Just because it is the birthright of every creature on the earth. And once it is snatched or taken away, then the creature gets overwhelmed with the emotions and the desire for freedom, because freedom should be bestowed upon every creature. God Himself has given that as a birthright to every creature, and therefore, no fellow being has got the right to take away that freedom from the creatures in the world. So, we go ahead to the next stanza from here. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. So, in the third stanza, we see how the poet has simultaneously talked about the life of a free bird now here. So, this is juxtaposition. As we can see that simultaneously, one after the other, the poetess has been continuously talking about the life of a caged bird and then the life of a free bird. So, here in this stanza, we see the first line is very important because it helps us to understand the mindset of a free bird. द फ्री बर्ड थिंक्स ऑफ अनदर ब्रीज। देखो, फ्री बर्ड क्योंकि ऑलरेडी दुनिया का एक लार्ज हिस्सा घूम चुकी है, तो इस वजह से फ्री बर्ड को ख्वाहिश होती है एक नई ब्रीज को एक्सप्लोर करने की, एक नई जगह को एक्सप्लोर करने की। जैसे मान लीजिए कि अगर आप ऑलरेडी किसी जगह पे नहीं गए हैं तो आप वहाँ पर जाने के लिए फ़ौरन तैयार हो जाएंगे। लेकिन अगर आप ऑलरेडी वहाँ पे जा चुके हैं, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मान लीजिए आपका स्कूल पिकनिक जा रहा है और स्कूल ने डिसाइड किया कि हम पुणे चलते हैं, तो आप ये कहेंगे कि नहीं, हम पुणे ऑलरेडी जा चुके हैं तो हम वहाँ नहीं जाना चाहते, जस्ट बिकॉज कि आप ऑलरेडी उस जगह को एक्सप्लोर कर चुके हैं। लेकिन अगर कुछ ऐसे स्टूडेंट्स हैं जो ऑलरेडी वहाँ पे नहीं गए हैं, तो वो खुशी खुशी वहाँ पे जाने के लिए तैयार हो जाएंगे। जो ऑलरेडी जा चुके हैं वो चाहते हैं कि अब वो दूसरी नई जगह को एक्सप्लोर करें, जस्ट बिकॉज कि वो ऑलरेडी पुणे जा चुके हैं। इसी तरह से फ्री बर्ड के साथ होता है। फ्री बर्ड क्योंकि वो फ्री है, आज़ाद है, वो हर दिन एक नए आसमान को अपने नाम करता है, वो आराम से जहाँ चाहे घूम सकता है। सो इट हैज़ ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लोर्ड अ लार्ज पार्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड एंड ड्यू टू विच द फ्री बर्ड ऑलवेज वॉन्ट्स टू एक्सप्लोर समथिंग न्यू, सम न्यू पार्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड इट वॉन्ट्स टू एक्सप्लोर एवरी डे। ये है माइंडसेट किसका? न्यू बर्ड, सॉरी, फ्री बर्ड का। लेकिन अगर हम बात करें केज्ड बर्ड की, तो क्योंकि केज्ड बर्ड ने तो दुनिया देखी ही नहीं है, उसके लिए सब कुछ नया है, तो उसे अनदर ब्रीज की ख्वाहिश नहीं है, उसे सिर्फ ब्रीज की ख्वाहिश है कि उसे बस ब्रीज मिल जाए, उसे बस एक बार आसमान मिल जाए, उसे कोई दूसरा ब्रीज नहीं चाहिए, जस्ट बिकॉज एवरीथिंग फॉर अ केज्ड बर्ड इज न्यू। And the trade winds soft through the sighing trees. So we see कि जब ट्रेड विंड्स चल रहे होते हैं, तो ट्रेड विंड्स चल रही होती हैं, तो ट्रेड विंड्स की वजह से जो ट्रीज हैं वो मूव कर रहे होते हैं, उनके विंड्स उनके जो लीव्स हैं वो फ्लटर कर रही होती हैं, और लीव्स की जो फ्लटरिंग है उससे जो साउंड क्रिएट होता है, तो उसको पोएट ने इमेजिन किया है, ऑडियो इमेजरी है sighing trees कह करके, and sigh is taking deep breath. So here also we see that the poet has applied the characteristic of a human being or a person upon the trees by saying that the trees were sighing. So here there is a figure of speech called personification. And the fat worms waiting on a dawn bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. तो जब फिर रात के बाद सुबह आती है और फैट वर्म्स आपको दिख जाएंगे वेट करते हुए डॉन में, डॉन इज अर्ली मॉर्निंग टाइम, ब्राइट लॉन में, जस्ट बिकॉज द लॉन इज गेटिंग ब्राइट ड्यू टू द सनराइज. सो इट इज टाइम फॉर द फ्री बर्ड दैट इट कैन क्लेम द स्काई अगेन, and it can name the sky in his own name. So it can name the sky of his own. So this is how the free bird's life is, that every day it has the freedom and opportunity to explore the world and the sky, and to claim the sky in his own name, and to enjoy its freedom up to its heart's will for as long as he wants. And on a contrary to that life, let's again read about the life of a caged bird by juxtaposing it. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. But the caged bird seems to be standing on the grave of dreams. That means ऐसा लगता है कि वो तो अपने ख्वाबों की कब्र पे खड़ा है, क्योंकि उसके जो ख्वाब है वो जैसे कभी पूरे ही नहीं हो सकते, जैसे उन ख्वाबों को कभी पूरे होने ही नहीं दिया जाएगा. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. मतलब वो जब अपनी परछाई को भी देखता है ना, तो क्योंकि उसकी परछाई नज़र आ रही है एक केज के अंदर, तो वो अपनी परछाई को देख करके ऐसा लगता है जैसे उसकी शैडो भी चिल्ला देती है, जैसे कि कोई बहुत डरावना सपना देख करके चिल्ला देता है. बिल्कुल वैसे ही उनकी ज़िंदगी एक नाइटमेयर की तरह है. एंड ड्यू टू दैट दे स्क्रीम, दे सीम टू बी स्क्रीमिंग. जो शैडो है केज्ड बर्ड की, वो भी ऐसा लगता है जैसे किसी नाइटमेयर को देख के चिल्ला रही है. ऐसी ज़िंदगी है उस केज्ड बर्ड की, एक नाइटमेयर जैसी. एक हॉन्टिंग ड्रीम जैसी, क्योंकि उसके जो विंग्स हैं वो क्लिप्ड हैं और उसके पैर बंधे हैं, लेकिन उसके पास एक ऑप्शन अभी भी है, एंड दैट इज टू स्टार्ट सिंगिंग. दैट मीन्स the poetess Maya Angelou is talking about that alternative or option which she herself had got, despite all odds, all difficulties, and confinement, that she could choose to start expressing her desire for freedom through writing. And this is what she does. And for writing the poems here, she is referring to singing. So here, that caged bird has the option to start singing. That means the black people or the African Americans or the people who were enslaved, they had the opportunity to start expressing their desire for freedom by writing. And writing is a great source to express yourself or to vent out your emotions. And this is how we see also that for this particular poem, she had received international appreciation and international identification as well. So, this is how she had accomplished her goal. Then we come on to the last stanza. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still. And his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. So we can see here something that this last stanza of the poem is a repetition, and it is the same stanza which is the third stanza of the poem. So we will understand it once again. The caged bird is singing with a fearful trill. That means it is singing with that vibration in its song that can cause goosebump in the listeners, because the song that is being sung by the caged bird, it is expressing its heart's desire for freedom. And just because the song is so overwhelming, although the song has got the content of such terrestrial things that have never been witnessed by the caged bird, still it is singing about those things that the caged bird himself has never seen or witnessed. कभी नहीं देखा उसने, क्योंकि वो केज के बाहर ही नहीं गया, उसको कभी मौका ही नहीं मिला दुनिया को देखने का. फिर भी उसने उन चीज़ों को इमेजिन करके उसके बारे में लिखा है, और उसने अपनी ख्वाहिश, अपनी इच्छा जाहिर की है फ्रीडम के लिए. और इसी वजह से उसकी जो पोएम है वो बहुत इमोशनल है. इतनी इमोशनल है that it is reaching to the distant hills as well, just because the content of the poem or the song which is being sung or which is being written by the caged bird, or metaphorically by the African Americans such as Maya Angelou. So it has got that intensity, it has got that power, just because ये जो पोएम है ये आज़ादी के लिए है, और आज़ादी की ख्वाहिश अपने आप में इतनी इंटेंस होती है कि उसे कोई रोक नहीं सकता, वो बहुत दूर तक पहुँचेगी. इसके ऊपर आई जस्ट रिमेंबर वन पोएम, द स्लेव्स ड्रीम करके एक पोएम थी, और ये भी इसी पर बेस्ड थी कि किस तरह से एक ब्लैक पर्सन को इनस्लेव करके रखा गया था, और वो ब्लैक पर्सन वॉज फोर्स्ड टू डू अ लॉट ऑफ चोर्स एंड एवरीथिंग. तो उसको काफ़ी चीज़ें उससे करवाई जाती थी रोज़ रोज़, और वो बस उन्हीं चीज़ों को कर रहा है, उसकी ज़िंदगी में कोई मकसद नहीं है, कोई खुशी नहीं है. और फिर वो एक दिन बहुत ज़्यादा थक जाता है और वो बैठे बैठे सो जाता है, उसकी आँख लग जाती है, और जैसे ही वो सोता है तो उसके अंदर फ्रीडम को लेकर के इतना इंटेंस डिज़ायर है और इतना डीप ड्रीम है कि वो सोते सोते ही उस ड्रीम की वजह से, उस डेप्थ, उस इंटेंसिटी की वजह से उसकी डेथ हो जाती है. And he dies, and he thinks that by dying for the sake of freedom, he has obtained freedom. He has procured freedom just because his body remained in the chains, but his soul had got freedom by releasing itself from his corporeal existence, from his body, from his physical existence. So, as soon as he died, his soul left his body, and by leaving the chained body, that soul got freedom. And this is how the slave's dream for freedom came true by dying. So, whether it is through death or through such a poem or through such a song, but then the dream of freedom is always intense just because it is the birthright of every creature that God has bestowed upon them. And it is not a right of any creature in the universe, on the earth, to snatch that freedom from their fellow beings. So, we have done this poem now, and let us do a very quick revision of all the stanzas. So, as I just told you, that this poem is a juxtaposition, just because we will see that simultaneously the poet has kept the life of a free bird and then the life of a caged bird, so that we can easily compare and contrast the two kinds of lives here. So, the first stanza is telling you about the life of a free bird, how it simply leaps and jumps and enjoys the wind and enjoys the sky, and it remains in the sky for as long as it wants, and then it decides to come down only when it is evening time, and then it also has consumed all its energy by that time. So he wants to gain energy again for another day, so that again another day that free bird can claim the sky to his name. Then in the next stanza, we see the life of a bird that is in the narrow cage, and being in the narrow cage, it has not an option to move for long, or to move anywhere else, but it has to stay within the cage, and it can simply stalk in the cage itself, just because its wings are also clipped and feet are tied. But then despite all these confinements, it has got one alternative still, to vent out his emotions, his desire for freedom, and that is by opening his throat and start singing, which is actually metaphorically talking about the writing of poems that Maya Angelou had started doing to express her intense desire for freedom. Then we see in the third stanza, which is followed, is again expressing the life of a caged bird, and how it sings the songs in such a manner that can cause goosebumps, that can make you feel that sensation of the intensity of the desire for freedom. And that tune is so overwhelming and vehement that it reaches to a distant hill as well. Then, in another stanza, the poet has talked about the life of a free bird and is telling you that the free bird, just because it has already explored a large part of the world, it wants another breeze every day. And every morning is a fresh new morning, is a fresh new day, and is a day of freedom for the free bird to enjoy and to claim the sky to his name again. Then, simultaneously, in the next stanza, the poet has talked about the life of a caged bird that seems to be standing on the grave of his own dreams. ऐसा लगता है वो अपने ख्वाबों के कब्र पे खड़ा हुआ है, और उसके लिए जिंदगी किसी नाइटमेयर की तरह है, just because उसके पैर भी बंधे हैं और उसके wings भी clipped हैं. But again, it has got the option to express his desire for freedom, and that is by opening his throat and start singing, which is again metaphorically representing the option that Maya Angelou had got to vent out her feelings by start writing and expressing her desire for freedom through her poems. In the last stanza, we see it is a repetition of the third stanza in the poem, and this stanza is talking about the same thing, that how the caged bird sings such a song which can cause goosebumps in the listeners, and it can also give you that sensation just because the song is for the desire for freedom, and therefore it can reach very very far. It can reach even to the distant hills, and just because it is expressing the desire for freedom. So this is how we come to an end of this poem, and I hope you understood this poem. So if you have understood, then please click like. Thank you for watching.